Thank you for joining us at Beerfish Fanatics. And this episode is actually brought to you by Whisker Secret Tackle.
So make sure you guys go to whiskersecret.com for all your catfishing gear.
Enjoy the episode, guys. I did pregame earlier, though, Ernesto, with my wife. She was like, it's Cinco de Mayo. So I had to, the 4 kids were playing around. We had dinner, and she, like, started pouring tequila. I was like, what the hell? I go, I got a podcast tonight, honey. She goes, it's all good. You'll be nice and warmed up for it. I was like, Jesus. It's the story of my life, man. But, all right, guys.
You got the margaritas flowing?
That's what I bought it for. I bought the tequila for the margaritas, and then she just started pouring shots. I was like, what the hell? I'm like, all right, honey. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Ready to party with the kids. But, all right, guys. Welcome to another episode of Beerfish Fanatics. This is Grandy with Ma Pop Fishing. We got
Kit with the Fishing Kit YouTube channel.
And today we have a special guest. He's actually from out of town, where I think the reason why we wanted him to come on, Mr. Ernesto Flores here. He's with the, is it KDWP, right, of Kansas?
Yep.
Perfect. And just so everybody knows, we have a fishing trip planned, and we're like, what better way before our fishing trip down to Kansas than to have, a fisheries biologist in from the fisheries divisions in Kansas. So welcome, Ernesto. How's it going?
Good, man. Glad to be here. Excited to do the show and talk about Kansas fishing.
There we go. So, quick shout out to our sponsor, Kalona Brewing Company. I'm drinking the Quick Wit. I don't know. I think I had this last time, but I'll do it again. But the Quick Wit, it's a Belgian style wit air. I think it's supposed to be quick wit, like play with what's that thing? Play with words. Is that
Play on words.
Play on words, something like that. Yeah. What do you got, Kit?
I'm actually drinking the same beer as last time too. The Double Night Vision Belgian style ale double.
So we're going European on you, Ernesto. We're drinking some European tasting type beer, I guess, right? Belgium.
You're going pounders.
There you go. Cheers, guys. Ernesto's being a good boy today, guys. So if you guys are wondering, like, why is he not drinking beer? He goes, well, number one, he's punched in because he's going to be giving us the lowdown on fish and fisheries down there. So we're ready to rock and roll. But If anybody who's new to our listeners, we've got some new downloads and a lot of new listeners. We actually had Ernesto on our podcast, I want to say maybe a couple months ago, and he was up here for the conference, and we were able to get him on. He was so cool. He had a lot of information, but we only had like 10-15 minutes with him, so we figured, you know what? We got to get him back on so he can really give us the lowdown about Kansas fisheries and everything on that. So you don't mind, Ernesto, if can you describe yourself, what you do, give us a little bit of background about you and yourself, and what you do at KDWP?
All right, so I'm a fisheries biologist for the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. My position is I describe it as a fisheries biologist, but really I work out of the Emporia Fish Research and Survey Office. Within the office, we have multiple statewide coordinators. We have a fisheries research coordinator, an aquatic nuisance species coordinator, a human dimension specialist, and then of course our supervisor, and then several other coworkers. But the beauty of the office that I work in is we kind of work in all realms. So it's not specifically just geared towards management, which just basically looking at, fish population and stuff. But I get to work with like aquatic nuisance species. We deal with like a commercial, I oversee the commercial bait program for the state. So I guess in short, I'm trying to describe that I get to work in like a wide swath of fisheries related fields. So it's pretty exciting. I get to learn a lot along the way, along my job.
Cool.
You're kind of like a jack of all trades in fisheries then, huh?
I guess just the more I know, the better, the more knowledge I put in my brain, I guess the better off I'll be. I enjoy it, man. I enjoy learning.
I'm just curious because as fishery biologists and people who work for, the departments, do people expect you guys to be like amazing fishermen? You know what I mean? Because honestly, because I thought, okay, when we had the Iowa DNR on and you guys on, we were there, like, man, these guys got to be badass fishermen, right? I mean, the expectation is because you guys know the damn fish, what they do and how they breed and all that stuff. So you would think that you guys are like amazing fishermen. Do you guys ever get that, or do you guys ever feel that?
Yeah, when I went to school and I thought I was, I found out that this is what I wanted to do. I was like, man, this is going to improve my fish catching ability for sure. But I guess I'll speak on behalf of myself. It definitely helps to like understand the biology of the species that you're targeting. So knowing when they're going to be spawning, when they're going to be located during like times of the year, what kind of habitat they use. But at the end of the day, man, you're still going to have to get the fish to bite. You're still going to have the right presentation. You're just going to have to be in the right spot. Conditions, weather, wind, rain, sun, all those things affect fishing. But I don't know. I'm not going to say that it helps and makes you become a better fisherman, but I'm not much of a competitive fisherman myself, but yeah, it helps a little bit.
Doesn't
it's a
hurt.
good time.
Doesn't hurt. So that's good.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
At least, well, are you involved with any surveys down there, like as for netting or electrofishing or whatever?
Yeah. So we have 17 district fisheries biologists in the state of Kansas. And each one of those individuals has like 7 or 8 counties in the state of Kansas. So they actually oversee like the actual, standard sampling where they deploy like gill nets, trap nets, electrofishing for largemouth blue cats. And they actually they handle the data. The beauty of our office is we kind of have, we get to help those district fisheries biologists. So if they have a question, they're looking at, just last year, we were looking at blue catfish at Tuttle Creek, and we did a big expansive project there and trying to estimate how much or how big the population was, how fast the fish are growing. A really big like tagging effort. It was basically, we spent a month on the water shocking blue cats. It was a good time. So we do have, the ability to go out there and actually throw gear, throw juice into the water. But we actually don't have like any, what you would say like our own management district, but we do get to help all the surrounding biologists. We're located in Emporia. It's like east central Kansas, so it's really in a good region, good area in terms of like having Milford an hour away, having a lot of reservoirs that are an hour away, 30 minutes away. There's just a lot more water in eastern Kansas than there is western Kansas, so we're located in a pretty good spot.
Cool. Well, we might as well jump into it. So blue cats, man. I know. So fishing kid over here. I mean, he's notorious. I don't think we made a trip quite yet, right? This year we haven't made a trip to go chase the blue cats yet, right? This year.
Nope, I have not gone on a blue cat trip yet, but
yet.
It's in the plans. It's in the plans.
There we go. So, I mean, can you tell us a little? I mean, we touched on this, on the episode that you were with us for briefly, but why is Kansas so well known now? It feels like now, like I want to say probably in the last 5 years or so, right? I feel that it's been a popular destination for people to chase these blue cats, and why and how have they been so successful there in Kansas? Can you help explain that, or what's going on with the blue cats there?
Yeah, so a little bit of history, I guess, about blue cats in Kansas. So they're perceived to be native in like 3 rivers in eastern Kansas before KDWP started stocking them to try to get a population established, like a fishery that anglers could take advantage, go enjoy. We started that stocking effort in 1990 at Milford Reservoir. This is it's an impoundment of the Republican River, which basically then drains into the Kansas River, which is one of those rivers that were perceived to have native blue cats in Kansas. But it took that particular reservoir 11 years to see recruitment, to see these fish, after stocking it, to see these fish actually begin to reproduce. And we started seeing year classes come on. So when biologists were out there sampling in the fall, which is when Kansas does a lot of their standard netting surveys, they started seeing those smaller fish, and they were like, well, we haven't stocked in 3 or 4 years. These are basically the evidence of recruitment, or, them reproducing. So it took 11 years. After we saw that success, then we started stocking these things in other larger reservoirs in Kansas. And I think we're up to maybe 14 or 15 reservoirs that have been stocked. So Post 2001, we had, I believe, Tuttle Creek in like 2003 and El Dorado around that same time. And then we had another group of reservoirs in like 2006, 2007, 2010, all the way up to like 2015. And we still intermittently stock some blue cats to try to get them established if they need some help. But yeah, you're starting to see those fisheries, I guess, grow. You saw, I mentioned Milford took 11 years. If we're starting to see a lot of those populations kind of mature and blossom to where they're beginning to recruit and reproduce. And, that's why it's critical for us to get out there and throw nets in the water and figure out what's going on. But yeah, I think that's, directly correlated kind of with the fact that Kansas is kind of becoming, a little established in terms of the blue catfish world. We have the Kansas River, which has, a blue catfish fishery. That's one of the large rivers in Kansas. But we're predominantly stuck to stocking them in our larger our larger reservoirs, 3,000 acres or larger. But I just got done visiting with the human dimension specialist in our office, and I was curious. I was writing a paper, and I was like, man, I know we did this in 2006. So blue catfish were unranked in the power rankings of fishing and anglers. So we creel licensed anglers and ask them what their favorite fish to catch is and what their favorite fish to actually fish for, questions like that. And blue catfish in 2006 not on the map, 0. Then we do it again in 2013 and they creep up to number 6. And then we just got done doing another iteration here in 2020 and they climbed all the way up to number 4. So you're starting to see, blue cats are starting to proliferate across the state. Anglers are starting to notice them. Maybe they stumble upon them. They're out there fishing for channel cat. They throw some, whoa, this one doesn't look like a channel. So yeah, I guess it correlates a little bit with our stocking efforts that we've been doing.
What was number 1?
Number 1, I believe it's largemouth bass.
Oh shit, man. Horse shit.
Yeah.
Sorry guys. Sorry to our bass listeners, man. Bullshit. Those people just haven't caught a blue cat yet.
I'm a bass angler, man. I'm in Kansas here fishing for those 5-pounders, man. Those Kansas 5-pounders. But yeah, as I'm sure is the case, in a lot of states, largemouth happens to be, it's man, you see it everywhere. You spend the most money on bass tackle probably. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like catfish is always going to be the underdog. I think that's why I think that's why I like catfishing so much. You always gotta talk smack about number 1 and root for the underdog.
Oh yeah, man, March Madness, man.
That's funny. Oh, man.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Milford, so recently there was a slot limit that got implemented there. I can't remember how long it's been, but do you know what was the reasoning behind that, or what are the results that are coming from having that slot there?
So I believe the regulations are 25 through 40 inch protected slot limit with a 1 fish over 40 inches. And I believe the rest have to be below 25. And I think it's a 5 fish a day, but I could be wrong, but I think that's what the regulation is. And the reasoning behind that was we had a lot of, as you guys know, when you're fishing for like catfish, I mean, most guys are throwing 7-aught, 8-aught, 10-aught circle hooks and baiting them with cut carp. I just got done watching your channel catfish fishing video on the river, so I saw those hooks. But they're throwing this big gear, and those bigger fish are really susceptible towards those big hooks. You're throwing a big giant piece of meat out there. So we had Milford just being the popular destination, for blue cats. We had anglers that were, concerned with the ability of anglers to harvest these individuals, these trophy-sized fish. So just like with anything, in fisheries, we want those big fish, man. You hate to see them go. You want to keep catching them. So the regulation was put in place. Obviously, we looked at the data as well, and thought that the 25-inch threshold, being able to harvest below was kind of a suitable size. We're starting to see a little bit with blue cats, kind of the same thing that we see with largemouth. We see as these populations, like for Milford, for example, it still has a plethora of, big fish, but we're starting to see them just go nuts, man. I mean, there's so many 18, 20-inch fish in that lake. And just like with largemouth, in order to improve growth, being able to harvest those smaller individuals, and a 24 and a half, 24.99-inch blue cat, still a good size to where anglers can fillet and get, a decent size, decent size amount of meat off those fish. So that's where the 25 inches came from. And then post, the regulation, we did a dynamic rate evaluation. So we looked at growth, and we found out that 40-inch blue cats, it takes them on average 20 plus years to get to 40 inches. Now that's a long time for return on investment on a 40-inch fish, so being able to protect those and give them a chance to, swim free and grow anywhere from 25 to 40 inches, that's a good, that's good for the fishery. And equally, just, it takes them 20 years to get to 40 inches. It takes them 10 years to go from 25 to 40. So it's just, we talk about how old these fish are. There's always the question when, recently, I saw like a buffalo that was aged like 90 some years. Like, it's crazy, 20 years for a 40-inch blue cat.
How old do blue cats get? I mean, I guess you can say, what was the oldest blue cat that's been caught? That would be the only way you guys can kind of, test to see how old they get.
So we age these blue cats from Milford using pectoral spines. The oldest one we found, I believe, was 23 years old, and it was, I want to say like 1,200 millimeters. I don't know off the top of my head what that equates to in inches. I just remember it from the project, but it was 23 years old. The thing with how old they are, it's all kind of dependent on how fast they're growing. So fish, a 23-year-old fish in Milford may get to, 47 inches, but a 23-year-old fish on the Mississippi, and I keep in mind, I don't know what's going on there, but that fish may be 100 pounds, at age 23. It just kind of dependent on the system of how big they're going to get, correlating to how old the fish actually are.
That's good information that because we had Jeff on to really explain that, because a lot of people are like, when they see like you're just saying 100-pound fish, you're like, dude, that's like 50 years old, blah blah blah. But it just, like you guys are saying, it really depends on the location of the water and all that stuff. So it all depends. And so people saying just because you see a 40-pound fish or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that's 40 years old or 50 years old. It could be a young fish, like you're saying, that's on the river, has a lot of forage. It just depends. So it's good to, yeah.
Yep.
I'll have to ask I'll have to ask our local fisheries, because recently, I guess within the last few years, they've started stocking in 2 lakes with blue cats. And I hope like they're looking down at Kansas and start spreading them out to more lakes. I mean, I guess it's gonna depend on how these lakes do in the next few years. But man, I mean, I like going down to Kansas and all, but if I can only drive an hour or so and just still catch blue cats, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I hope they can get them established. What's crazy about Kansas is it's really located kind of on the periphery of, I really don't like I've said this before, like other, public things like this that I've done, like the native range term. But blue cats do, like in Kansas, they are kind of on the periphery of their range, whatever their perceived native range is. So, I always kind of sit in there too. But these things, that we've seen them be successful in Kansas. I'm hoping you guys can see, similar success in Iowa and wherever else they're introduced. They're an awesome fish, man. They get big. Anglers love catching big fish. They love taking the picture with the big fish, record type status, but they're also tasty. Like, anglers love to eat blue cat here in Kansas. So yeah, it's an awesome fish. I hope you guys do it.
For sure.
I hope so too. Like, my fingers are crossed.
Yeah.
I haven't gone down there to target those fish at those lakes yet, because they're kind of, well, I guess one of them isn't terribly far from me, but they're not quite, that big size yet. I think 10 pounds is the top range that we got right now. And I'm surprised the DNR, I'm sure they have their reasons, but I'm surprised there's no system implemented to make sure those fish get big here, since it's kind of like a limited like a really limited resource when I think about it. But I
Mhm.
don't know. Hopefully, it all works out.
Yeah. I mean, like
Yeah.
if our listeners, if you guys haven't checked out, go check out Fishing Kit's channel. You'll see him because catching. I'm telling you, catching a blue cat on a kayak, it's just unbelievable. And especially when you catch, if it's 20, 30, 40 pound, it's insane. Just the crazy fight that you have to do with it on a kayak. I mean, we did it on a kayak, so I mean, I bet you same feeling obviously on a boat, but on a kayak it was just it was just pure chaos. So it's just one of those things like I highly recommend any kayak fishermen, women here, if you haven't caught or at least chased these blue cats, go do it. I did it on my birthday weekend last year. Didn't catch a single thing until one, and then it was like the biggest freaking catfish I've ever caught in my life. And I have a witness, even though I didn't record it. Damn it, I keep getting shit from this guy all day, every day about it. I didn't take pictures. I was too damn excited, but it was just pure chaos. So you guys gotta try. If you're a kayak fisherman, I highly recommend go try catch one of these blue cats. It's pretty cool.
You're probably rolling around like Jeremy Wade out there. Have you seen those episodes when he's fly fishing off a kayak, like in the Amazon, just getting twirled around? Man, I've never caught a catfish off the cat. Well, I shouldn't say I never. I've caught a few channel cats bass fishing on bass jigs of all things, but yeah, specifically targeting blue cats on a kayak sounds like an adrenaline rush, man, especially if you get into a big one.
Yeah, for sure. And then, because like I was saying, that weekend we went, I was just busy watching them catch the whole weekend, and I'm like, God, this sucks. I can't get one. Everybody literally around me was catching, and I just couldn't get one. And then once you hit that one, I'm telling you, it was just one of those things. Like I want to go back down there. I really want to go back and chase them again. And get the opportunity to hopefully catch on my new kayak this year. Hopefully, well, the weather's been kind of shitty. It's been windy as hell here, rainy, faint. It's just snowing, and then finally, just recently, has been okay the weather now. So hopefully, it'll get better, right, Kit? I don't know.
Yeah. So how's the weather been down in Kansas? In Iowa, it's been really windy, rainy, and then I think we've only had 2 days where it was 70 degrees that I can think of off the top of my head.
Pretty
Uh,
much.
I'm guessing Kansas isn't that different from Iowa. I mean, you're still a few hours away, but I'd imagine it being pretty similar.
Yeah, do you guys still have like brown grass on the shoreline? Or are you guys starting to green up a little bit? I guess I'm just um, we're starting to green up. A coworker of mine in the office actually said that we have broken the record for high wind warnings in Kansas above or wind speeds above 25 miles per hour, and we're 5 months into the year. So we've been really windy. We've been, almost like twilight weather, twilight movie weather, like rainy, cloudy, overcast. And yeah, it's been hard to get out on the water, especially like I'm a kayak angler, so it's hard to find days where it's not windy to get out there, man. A lot more bank fishing, a lot more creek, off the beaten path type of fishing for me, just because of the weather here.
Yeah, I don't fishing Kit and myself. Our kayak hasn't even touched the water yet this year. It's been so crazy windy,
Oh,
and we haven't. Our kayak hasn't even touched the water. I haven't even I haven't even posted a video on my YouTube channel because I can't catch shit. The wind, the rain. It's been hectic, dude. It's been insane this year. You're right. It's just been sucky. I mean, I wish I had more time to go. I've been really busy, but man, I hope, like you say, hopefully this summer. Like I said, I think it's just gonna skip everything. It's gonna go straight to summer, and hopefully the winds die down. And we get a chance to chase some fish on the yak. I mean, it's sitting there. I keep telling my wife keeps giving me that look like you bought this shit this year and then it's still sitting in the garage. Like, are you ever gonna use it? Type of look. She didn't even have to say anything. It's just the look.
you don't think I want to be out there?
I know, right? That's exact. I mean, I want to say that, but then I was like, man, I better tread lightly.
Yeah,
You know, in
yeah.
regards to your response, you got to tread lightly in certain things.
Safe bet. Yes.
Exactly, man. Um, the reason we're gonna go to Kansas is technically in a couple 2 weeks, Kit, right? 2 or 3 weeks we're gonna be no, actually in about a month. In a month.
Yeah, one
So
month from now.
so we're not gonna be really chasing catfish. I mean, granted, it'll be bonuses if we can catch them. I mean, we might throw a couple lines here and there. But we're gonna be chasing fish with stripes, I think, right, Kit? I think are we gonna be targeting those more?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We're not. I mean, we'll tell Ernesto later, but
yeah,
we're not going to Milford. But we're going down to another lake down there that has a lot of white bass. It's
yeah.
like it's
Big.
amazing. Like the average size of these white bass, I'd say you feel like they're like 2 pounds
I,
gourds.
I would say
Yeah.
on average it's 2 pounds. Like 1.5 to 2 pounds. That's like the typical that you'll catch. Anything less than a pound, you're like, what the hell is rare? And then you get a couple even bigger than that. But yeah, I'd say 1.5 to 2 pounds for sure, Kit. That's the average we catch.
Yeah, is speaking of white bass, is that a fishery that the KWP manages at all, or is it kind of just like, oh, they're there, they just sustain themselves kind of thing?
So, I mean, as is the case, our district biologists sample in the fall. They throw gill nets in the fall, and they catch a lot of white bass where the white bass are, and then they use that data to kind of figure out what's going on. In terms of like actively managing that fishery, like on a statewide basis, I mean, white bass just kind of do their thing in the state. They're just they're awesome. I just stumbled into, I was creek fishing. So I always hear about guys talking about the white bass run, when they run up the river and they begin spawning. So I'm up in the creek avoiding the wind in the kayak, and I'm bass fishing, and I stumble onto, like a 15 and a half, 16-inch white bass. And we just have like a plethora of those opportunities across the state. So, we have them in a lot of our reservoirs, and they're a fun fish to catch. They fight. You fillet them up. They taste good too. Yeah, I would say they're almost like on the underrated wagon with the catfish species. But yeah, we don't in terms of what we do for them, it's just they're there. They exist. They do well. And those anglers that know about them, they sure enjoy going after them and targeting those fish.
For sure. So, Kansas listeners, do we have a lot of Kansas listeners? Hey, and you might get some out of towners after this podcast. It's all good. We love you guys. We'll pay for our license and everything down there. We love, but you're right. I think the white bass down there, for some reason, I think it was the last couple of years, me and Kit, when we go down there, when we do this trip, because we meet my in-laws who meet us halfway down there in Kansas, and I'm telling you, every time we catch it never surprises us. It's just every time we just catch, like, holy shit, it just keeps ripping, and it fights so hard. These white bass, it's just unbelievable. Like, people don't believe us until, I think we had sake fishing. Sean, our buddy, went down there. He's like, yeah, something in the waters in Kansas. Your white bass, it fights harder than, I mean, it already fights hard here in Iowa. But for some reason, we don't know what is in your guys' water. It just fights, like, it feels just like 2 times harder. I don't know, right, Kit? I don't know, man.
Yeah, like I even joked about it in one of my videos because we got on a pile of them, and every single one, they're just digging and digging. Like, man, there's got to be something in the water, man.
It's that productivity, man. They're making them grow. They're making them tough. But yeah, you're talking about white bass. We still, here in Kansas too, we offer the hybrid, hybrid bass too. I call it, the wipers. They're they exist too, and they kind of roam around with those white bass too. And you're fishing for whites occasionally, or white bass, and then occasionally you stumble into a hybrid, and you're gonna know it's a hybrid because those things, take off. Then we also have some striped bass fisheries in the state that, and one particular lake in Kansas, it's super clear, and there's like 15 20-pound stripers in there. I actually had the opportunity as like a seasonal back in the day, like 6-7 years ago. But yeah, I was working as a tech, and my boss was like, hey, the hatchery's getting rid of their striper brood stock. That's what they use to to make striped bass, fry, fingerlings, intermediates, whatever it is, whatever the biologists are requiring. But they're like, well, hey, they're getting rid of their brood stock. We're going to stock them. So I pull up, there's like, 20 or 30 striped bass in this fish truck, and I'm offloading them each by hand because they're all 25-pound plus. And I had one that was 38 pounds, and it did a crocodile death roll on my arm. And I was like, dude, these fish are nothing to mess around with, man. They're tough. Like, and they're underrated. They fight awesome. And yeah, we have a lot of those opportunities. I know we're kind of going on a tangent off white bass, but
It's all
they
right.
all kind of look
No.
the same, you know.
We wanted to go on that too because that's a bucket list fish for Fishing Kit and myself. I mean, we've never caught a traditional striped bass, so you guys are close to us, and hopefully we lucky. We can talk offline. We'll have to ask you a little bit, get a little tips from you, the location. But you know what? If you don't mind, so I know this is kind of a different tangent, but can you explain white bass, a white hybrid striped bass, and a striper for people? Because some people, I still get it till this day, like in Iowa, they're like, "Yeah, that's a striper, it's a striper." I go, and in Fishing Kit, I can hear him, like I can see his eyes roll. We don't have no stripers in Iowa, guys. It's either a hybrid striped bass or a white bass. But if you don't mind, can you explain the difference between each one of those three in case somebody's listening, like, okay, what the hell's the damn difference? What's the big deal? I guess.
So white bass, they're man, and this is tough because when we find these in nets, they're in terms of trying to determine, like, it's easy to determine when they're big, when they're large fish. So if you get a white bass that's going to be a big white bass of 3-4 pounds, then you get a wiper that's the same size, 3-4 pounds, and a striper, and you put them all next to each other, you're going to be able to tell the difference. The morphology of the fish, you're gonna be able to tell difference like by features. So a striped bass will have much more pronounced lines. It's just a very, very solid like line pattern across its body, and it's much more elongated. And I could get into the whole scientific, like, there's a tongue patch type of deal to where you actually have to open the mouth and look at whether one fish has one tongue patch or two tongue patches. And half the time I'm looking, I can't even tell. So it's just it almost becomes like the more fish that you see of those particular species of those three, the easier it becomes to kind of differentiate which one it is. So white bass generally deeper in terms of like the dorsal fin to pelvic fin area. So it's a kind of a smaller, stout fish. They're all part of the Maronid family. Throwing some science in there from ichthyology class, but and then you get your hybrid bass, which basically they're a cross between breeding a white bass and a striped bass. So they're the middle ground of, like, a white bass is kind of on the smaller end if you got all three that are the same size. And in terms of like how big they get, white bass don't generally get as big as like a hybrid bass or a striped bass. But then your hybrid bass fall right in the middle. So as I say, it's a cross between a white bass and a striped bass, and those those are the ones that get 8. I've seen them 13 pounds here in Kansas. I've had a buddy catch a 13-pound hybrid bass, and that's just insane. But they're kind of the middle ground. And then you got your striped bass, which like I said, they're much more elongated. They're almost, oh man, they almost look like a marine fish, like they've got a different body shape to them. But those fish can get anywhere up to, 40, I've seen them 40 pounds, 45 pounds. So they have the opportunity to reach that trophy status. I mean, anything can really reach trophy status if you think about it, but they're just, those fish of a lifetime.
For sure.
So with the striped bass, I'm wondering why not just stock all striped bass instead of stocking the hybrids? Like why is hybridizing them a thing if you got, the true ocean striped bass in your lakes?
It just comes down to just striped bass. They just don't do well in all environments. They have to have the adequate environmental conditions for those fish to thrive. I know there's a striped bass population in Texoma, but you're talking about a 100,000 acre reservoir with plenty of water. It's got plenty of depth. Those fish can hunker down. They're a highly mobile species, so they have a high oxygen requirement. And Texoma just offers a lot more surface acreage for those fish to exist and and thrive. But yeah, it just comes down to them being able to survive in whatever ecosystem they're being thrown in. Hybrid bass white bass do so well in Kansas. Hybrid bass are kind of that middle ground. They give anglers an opportunity to catch something a little bigger than a white bass. But yeah, it just comes down to how well they do in the system. We have a few striped bass fisheries in the state of Kansas, and where we don't have striped bass, we have hybrid bass, which just do just as excellent as a white bass that fisheries do.
Gotcha. So is it a white bass dad and a striped bass mom, or is it the other way around, or is there like it doesn't really matter?
Good question, man. I'm
You're gonna put
always
me on the spot.
for
We're gonna have
sure.
to edit this out because I'm gonna have to go Google it, man. I can't tell.
That's awesome because I've always wondered that too. Like, which one is the dad? Which one is the mom? That's a great question, kid.
We're gonna get to the bottom of this.
We will.
And I know, I hope no other biologists watch this and they're sitting there and they're like, man, this guy doesn't know this off the top of his head. And,
No,
you
it's
know,
awesome. Hey,
still got some learning to do.
it's okay, man. Yeah, I think we had that question offline before BK. We're like, I think we're like, which one's the dad? Which one's the mom? We just never, we never knew. We never figured it out. We never asked the Iowa DNR or anything like that either. So we're just like, well, we might as well ask. Because, okay, does Kansas, okay, this is the thing. You guys, a lot of the times, I know the Iowa DNR produces a lot of walleyes, you know, fingerlings and everything. And they, you know, so you guys produce a lot of, is it a white bass or hybrid striped bass? You guys do that in Kansas a lot, right?
Do we do that?
Yeah, and then do you guys share
Yes.
it like nationwide type deal, or how does that work? Because I think we touched that in one of our podcasts a while ago, but how does that network work? Because I know because a lot of people don't know, you know, typical normal angler don't know that. How do these get stocked? You know, because you know obviously Iowa produces really well walleyes in regards to you know to be able to
Mhm.
produce it. So you guys, I think you guys do right. Is that hybrid striped bass or white bass, or which one do you guys do? Which one?
We do hybrids. We do the
Okay.
hybrid bass. Yeah. So we have a hatchery that has striped bass brood stock on hand, and you know those are the fish that I mentioned that I got the opportunity to throw into the lake. It was awesome. But we're gonna get to the facts first. So a hybrid striped bass is a cross between a female white bass, so the eggs of a white bass, and a male striped bass. So there we go. We got the facts. We got that
Okay.
out of the way now.
So a male stripe and a female white bass. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so we have our striped bass brood stock. I think actually we just had our biologists, some of our district fisheries biologists out collecting white bass specifically to create hybrids in within the hatchery. So they do, the hatchery does their thing. That's one thing that I'm a little unfamiliar in terms of like, you know, the how hatchery that I don't actually get to work. I don't work in a hatchery. I'd love to learn all about that stuff too. But in terms of what they actually, the process of actually spawning these fish, I know our hatcheries take, you know, they do a really good job. They fulfill the demands of what our biologists, you know, whatever the request of is their district or fisheries, what they need. Um, but yeah, we do create hybrids, and then we end up stocking them in a lot of our federal reservoirs, and they provide just that summertime fishing opportunity. If you've ever seen a school of hybrid bass hit topwater in the middle of the summer, I mean, you can throw a rooster tail, you can throw an 1/8 ounce jig, you can throw a buzz bait. It doesn't really matter, and those fish are going to hit it and hit it hard. So yeah, we do as for KDWP, we do some stocking. I'm not too sure in terms of sharing them with like other states. I know if we were to share in terms of the trade business, there is some of that going on, but I'm unfamiliar in terms of that side of the you know, the fish trade business for KDWP.
Hmm. So where does wipers stack in the tier list of fish?
In terms of what, you know, what anglers prefer.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there at least.
Oh man, you know,
Oh, you have to think about it.
I
That means
think,
it's not that high. What the heck?
well, that's the thing is, you know, Kansas like offers a variety of different fishing. So you guys
For
talk,
sure.
you know, we have walleye, we have our own walleye stocking program similar to what Iowa does. We have, you know, our largemouth, not necessarily in our large reservoirs, but our state fishing lakes, some of our other programs where we enroll some of these community lakes have really great, like, you know, 5-6 pound largemouths. It's just, you know, pond hopping basically these 150 acre uh, um, bodies of water. Then we have, you know, the whole Maranid family, the white bass, the hybrid bass, striped bass trifecta. But in terms of, they're kind of almost like another underrated, you know, resource fishery for it's those guys that know, like when white bass run, or when, you know, the wipers are hitting top water at, you know, all the impoundments, or, you know, you got to go to the specific lake to target your striped bass. Those anglers have or there's a following for those the trio of maronid species. But yeah, they're kind of just there, man. They exist. I don't know if they're as highly sought after as like a walleye or a crappie, a largemouth, a blue cat.
Yeah.
They're there.
I'll put them at number 5 then.
I bet you crappies probably top 3 or something. Some of these guys say. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love crappies, but I just love to eat them. I don't know. I mean, catching them is fun and all, but like you say, I'd rather catch a 10-pound wiper than a 15-inch crappie. I'm just saying. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just
we're actually crappie do their thing, you know. They're speaking of, like, you know, we're talking about blue cats being so long lived, you know, 20 years plus, like a crappie, and a crappie can get to 13, 14, 15 inches in Kansas in, you know, 3-4 years. Like, it's kind of a shorter return in terms of, like, you know, just their life cycle, how old they get. But yeah, crappie are, I think they're top 3. So, you know, I think it's largemouth, walleye. No, largemouth, crappie, walleye, blue cat. That's the top 4. Those are
the typical.
Those are the ones that, the typicals
For sure. And then everybody's probably like in Kansas, like, shh, Ernesto, don't tell anybody about your crappies. You're right though. You guys got some pretty nice crappies there for sure. That we come across. How has the crappie season been? Because I know right now it's about springish, almost summerish now. Has it been picking up pretty good? I mean, we're hoping to catch some too. I would like to get a few crappies, and you know, when we get down there, but it might be a little bit too late. But how's that been?
Crappie fishing here in Kansas. So I think around this time normally they're spawning, so they're up shallow doing their thing. But just we've been so slow in terms of water temps. I think we have water temps in our reservoirs 58. Ooh. So I mean, at the beginning of May, you know, we're going to be, a lot of biologists are going to be doing their spring electrofishing. They're pulling up to, you know, I've seen a lot of biologist Snapchats, believe it or not. Their stories are putting them up there when they're catching largemouth, and they're shocking a lot of their smaller lakes because generally those are the ones that heat up faster. Those water temps increase, those fish head to the littoral zone where they're easier to catch. And those fish still have full bellies. Like, you know, they haven't spawned in terms of largemouth. Crappie are right there, kind of neck, you know, in terms of the spawn. But yeah, we're kind of slow. But not to say that the crappie fishing's, you know, slow here in Kansas. It's just in terms of where they are on in spawning, in the spawning time cycle. They're just about to start, you know, really getting a hold of the bank and crowding the shoreline.
For sure.
Yeah, I think I was kind of the same too. I feel like we're a little bit behind compared to the last couple of years. I mean, even looking at our trees, I go back and look at old pictures every year. Okay, what was I catching during this time last year, the year before? And I'm looking at the trees too, and like our trees, they got like little leaflets or whatever. But a year ago, like they had full on like leaves on the trees. The trees are behind, the fish are behind. The grass is going pretty fast though. I gotta mow my lawn too.
I know,
but
same. I got yelled at today, like, go cut the grass, boss. I'm like, ah, dang it, yep. I got to do that too.
I'm having the dilemma tomorrow. So we've had, probably like 3 inches of rain in the last twilight weather, in like the last 3 days, and tomorrow is supposed to be like 69, and I'm looking at like a 5-mile-per-hour wind out of the north, and my lawn is a disaster. And I have to balance, like, man, do I have to mow, or do I use this day, the day that I was given to me to go fishing, you know?
All right, I'm gonna let you know. Go fish, man. the lawn will it'll just still be there. The fish won't. You know what I mean? They move, right? So I'm just saying, just go fish, man.
yeah, I'm leaning that way too.
Yeah, that's a easy debate for me. Like fishing or mow the lawn.
What if the grass is like 6 inches?
Don't worry about it. It's not going to grow another inch in a day. It's going to grow maybe, you know, it'll be fine. You cut it tomorrow. Yeah. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Man.
I want to ask you a little bit about the anglers down in Kansas. So we what kind of, I guess you say, issues or struggles do they say, or tell you guys as a department? Because I would say here in Iowa, a lot of anglers might wish we put more regulations here and there on specific fish, specific species and stuff. So we get that, I guess, response a lot, at least in the forums, social media and stuff. That's what I hear, and when we talk to people and stuff. Is that the same thing you guys get down there? Do people like, I wish there was more regulations, or what would you say is the biggest concern or something from typical fishermen down there?
I think it varies across the state. So we just have a gradient in the state of Kansas in terms of like what I don't want to speak like on behalf of anglers, but
For sure.
just a gradient in terms of like what potential opportunities exist across the state. So like in Western Kansas, we have a lot of reservoirs that are more, they succumb to like low water levels more easily. So there's less water, but they happen to have some of our best walleye fisheries in the state, and our anglers out there are pretty vocal. They want to be able to just walleye is just such a unique fishery, with the fact that as soon as these fish, they taste so good, they're not that much fun to catch. Like they don't fight,
No, they
but
don't.
it's almost like a badge of honor if you go out and catch a limit. Like you're kind of the upper echelon of like anglers, So out there, they want to, as soon as these fish get to whatever the legal length limit is, if it's 18, 21, 15, whatever it is, those fish are, they're going home. So if they catch them, they're going to harvest them, take them home, and do their thing, probably soak them in some grease. But then we get anglers in the southeastern portion of the state that are, these river anglers that love limb lining for flatheads, and they love catching trophy flatheads. Then you have obviously your bass fishermen that exist in every state, your crappie live scope anglers. So in terms of their concerns, there's always going to be concerns with like, and well, we think about like live scope, that's one thing that's been a contentious topic across a lot of fishing. So there's always going to be that, well, there's guys taking home limits every day. There's taking 50 crappie home every day. So those concerns are probably going to exist across, not just our agency, but other state agencies. And we try to do our best to kind of address those concerns, because obviously we're in the business of providing a product for our constituents. We take the data, we try to make the best decision for the fishery, and then hopefully the anglers are happy with the product that we're putting out there for them. So I think there's always going to be those concerns. We try our best to listen to them. In terms of like, you talked about something about regulations, being more regulated. In some instances, it just depends on what the fishery needs. If the fishery needs, more protection, then we're going to implement those regulations and try to keep more fish in the lake. In other instances, we may need more fish to be taken out to improve growth, to improve condition, it just depends. Do these anglers want to take 5 fish that are 15 inches, or do they want to go out there and catch, a 27-inch? I'm speaking about walleye. Do they want to catch a limit of like 15-inch 5 fish, 15-inch walleye, or do they want to go there and have an outing where they have a chance to catch in a 28, 29-inch fish? We cater to our anglers as best as we can, in the form of like having, commission meetings where they have like an open mic, basically, to where they can be like, hey, I have a concern with live scope. I think live scope's going to change, crappie fishing. And, within our office, we actually have a colleague of mine who actually developed a project to look into live scope and the use of live scope, to see whether it did influence catching. The results that he found were pretty astounding to me. I mean, as you guys know, like the biggest thing, you still got to get a fish to bite, even if you find them on live scope. Like you can drop an eighth, you're going to find a tree full of, crappie, and you drop a 1/8 ounce jig. If it's pink, maybe they're not biting pink. Like you still got to find the lure that, the lure color, the trailer, the size of the jig. Maybe it's a jig and wrap, maybe it's something else. So you're still going to have to trick those fish into biting. But what you ended up finding out was that the biggest variable that had the most influence in terms of catch was like home lake advantage. And of course, like if you go to a lake and know where the fish are, just you've been there for 10 years and you've caught fish at a certain spot over a 10-year period, you're going to know where to dial in. It's just kind of natural. But I think live scope helps you find fish, but you still got to get them to bite. So yeah, those are just some things, man.
No, we got to get that gentleman on our podcast because he was a guest on the Iowa DNR podcast. They
Mhm.
have an Iowa DNR podcast, so he was a guest on there, and I was listening to that podcast like, all right, we got to get him on because even Fishing Kid was like, hey, if you ever need a test subject, we're down. Just let us know what. See, we're all down to be one of those, but for sure, and it just interesting because when he was on the podcast, just giving us the the results and everything, it's definitely interesting for sure to see how the way they tested it and stuff. So it's kind of cool. Is he going to be doing more of that? Do you know, or is it an ongoing project type of thing with the live scope?
Yeah. So the first iteration was obviously a winter crappie project. So we were looking at, a lot of anglers during the winter, man, these crappie congregate on, 50, whatever the structure happens to be, 15, 25, 40 foot of water. So we were looking at crappie to begin with. We got that, he got that project wrapped up, got some excellent results, some excellent data out of it. Next part is in August, we're going to be looking at blue catfish. Does live scope increase the ability or, the total catch of blue catfish? So we're going to be out there fishing a lake in Kansas, and one boat's going to be using live scope, one's not. I think it's going to follow a similar study design as the crappie project did. Okay. We're going to try to keep it as, you can always, even when we were bouncing, we were talking about this in the office, and, you can try to accommodate for all of the variables that would ever influence catch, but it comes down to man, what can you actually manipulate? What can you control? For and sure. So we're trying to keep the same studies. He's going to try to keep the same studies assigned for the blue catfish portion of the project.
You can let him know if he needs out of towners that doesn't know the lake. There's two gentlemen up here that more than willing to be a participant in this study. Just throwing it out there, man.
In the study, there's an assumption of the project, and that's that we're sampling the in-between anglers, not the top 10% of the best anglers in the world, and not the top 10 of the worst. So I think you guys will fit right in. No, I'm just kidding.
That's perfect, dude. At least for me. I don't know about this guy. This guy might, he's up there, I think. I would say I'm more so there's what is that? Upper class, middle class, middle, lower. I'm probably middle, lower class in regards to fishing, man. It's okay. I can accept it.
Yeah. I mean, me too, man.
Yeah. I just go a lot. That's what I tell people.
But that's how you get better. Like I'm telling you, man, it's all about experience. I mean, when you say you go a lot, you're learning something every time you go out. I mean, it might be you might even think about it, but you're just like, shit, that didn't work, or that did work. That's why you're gonna do it again. So, but if you're sitting on the couch or me at home with the kids, or mowing the lawn, I'm not gonna learn that shit that you just learned. You know what I mean? So it's all experience. So you have a lot of experience, which makes you a better angler.
I'm gonna comment on the live scope for catfish thing. I know it's nothing scientific. It's just me in a kayak. I run live scope on my kayak too. And for catfishing, I don't even use it for catfishing at all. I feel like it doesn't really make a difference for catfish because with crappies, with live scope, you're scanning around looking for fish, and you're basically casting towards that fish. With catfish, at least not in my experience, I'm not going around looking for catfish and casting my bait or whatever towards that catfish. So the approach is a little bit different as far as targeting catfish and crappies. So it'd be really surprising if live scope does make a difference in that study that your colleagues doing.
Yeah. I mean, those are all valid points. I'd be curious maybe to implement using the front facing portion of the sonar, and maybe just knowing you're going to cast your bait out there, whatever 30 feet, however far it is, and then seeing fish move in. Maybe are you able to see signatures that you can be man, that's a catfish? Can you? Because that's another thing. Obviously, our anglers had a concern with the use of live scope increasing harvest of crappie. They also voiced a concern with the use of live scope potentially, especially tournament trails, specifically targeting those big fish because anglers already had a concern of big fish being taken out of systems. So yeah, I'd be curious, man. I haven't really delved into it. I'm going in there fresh, unknown kind of, but yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Right. Well, as far as like being able to tell the difference between a catfish and a crappie is, I would say, is fairly obvious, but that's just because the catfish is so much bigger than a crappie. But I'd say if you're looking at a carp or a catfish, they're kind of size-wise, they're well, channel cats anyways. Let's say carp and channel cats, they're like for like as far as size and shape, I guess. I think it'd be hard to tell the difference between a carp and a catfish.
Yeah, and in a lot of our reservoirs here in Kansas, we have species of buffalo. We have big common carp, flatheads too. So yeah, it'd just be curious, to see fish signatures, whatever it happens to me. I mean, if you see it on live scope, I think it's cool to just see these fish basically move up to like kind of nose up, crappie in particular, when they nose up to your jig, and you're pulling it up. You're pulling it ever so slightly right in front of them. It's crazy. The technology is crazy. I want live scope on my kayak too. I'll get there eventually.
Join the club, man. Must be nice. Must be nice, Kit. Jeez.
You could also argue that you can tell what fish it is based on its behavior. Let's say you usually think of carp. Well, I would think of carp. They kind of just cruise around up high. At least that's my thinking. Maybe they kind of just stick on the bottom, but with ice fishing, I noticed I'd see all these big fish. Let's say I'm fishing in 25 feet of water, and I'd see big fish just cruising around in 10, 12 feet of water, basically halfway up the water column. And for the longest time, I always thought, oh, it's just a big carp swimming by, whatever. More often than not, it's a catfish hanging way up there. So it's hard to tell, like, if certain fish is a catfish or not. But like I said, catfish or crappie, a little bit easier to tell. But when it comes to identifying these bigger fish, I'd say it's a little bit harder to tell the difference.
Yeah. I'm excited. We get to go test it out, man. I'll put a bug in Ben's ear and see. I'll say, man, I just was on the podcast with these two guys. They're dying to get out here, man. They need a reason.
Just tell them, you know what? Just we'd love to get them on. If after, when is this the next trial run that he's going to be doing this? Do you know?
For Blue Cats?
Yeah.
I think it's sometime in August. I want to say like the first or second week of August. Obviously, it's tentatively planned just because we don't know what's going to happen weather-wise, wind, but
for sure.
Yeah, it's scheduled for August sometime.
We just love to get him on. We'll love to get him on. I'll reach out to you and see if we can get in contact with him. Just because obviously he's behind the whole thing, and it'd be kind of cool to get his input of what he thinks and all that stuff. So it'd be kind of cool on that.
For sure, you need to get him on here and give you the rundown, man. But
that would be awesome. Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about fishing. Ernesto fishing, man. So what are you, man? What are you looking forward to? What do you like to target? Open waters here. I mean, at least for Iowa, and we're excited. Summer's about around the corner. What are you going to be targeting this open water season? What's your go-to? I guess you can say that on that too.
Well, I started my supervisor when I was a technician, man. He loved to bass fish. So I picked up bass fishing in Kansas. I worked at a lake that, it was 10 foot low while I was out there. And then one summer it came up 10 feet and we had all this vegetation that just got inundated with water. All of a sudden we had all this new habitat, and then we stocked bass into it. And then those bass they survived, number one, because they had the habitat. And basically we had 5-pounders everywhere, and it has smallmouth in it. So I grew up fishing that lake after work. It was a good time. Loved bass fishing. Still do. And when, we had COVID and everyone, I went fishing a lot. I fished for bass quite a bit, man. I spent probably like 100 days on the water, like the first year, I don't know, 2020. And I was loving it. And then I think I got a little like burnt out a little bit. I was like, man, cause I was fishing this one lake in particular, but love to bass fish. This year things kind of changed for me. So I was really excited to come out of winter. I did a little bit of ice fishing. I actually went up to Leech Lake in Minnesota, and we used live scope there too. We saw like a like a 10-inch pike come through the live scope. We actually saw it on the underwater camera, so we knew what it was. And yeah, the signature was a little bigger than like all those 3 or 4 inch perch that don't bite ice jigs. But yeah, so I did a little bit of ice fishing too. Really like that. That's a good time, man. And then, so as soon as we obviously don't have much ice fishing here in Kansas, and I just don't have, you know, the foundation to go sit on the ice here in Kansas. But yeah, coming out, spring starts here in March, and that's usually when I'm pond hopping. I'm going to Kansas. So here in Kansas, there's obviously this misconception that like we don't have enough places to fish, and like, man, we have so many places to fish. We offer so many different programs. Well, we offer different opportunities across the state. We have obviously our big time reservoirs, 3,000, 10,000 Milford size, 16,000 acres. Then we have our state fishing lakes that are, 100, 200 acres, a lot of community lakes. So a lot of these towns, 4,000 people or so, they have that local fishing hole, and then they enroll in our community fisheries assistance program. And we basically establish a partnership to where our biologists manage that particular water body, stock it for them, as long as they're okay with opening it up to fishing. There's a little bit more like contracting details behind the scenes, but basically that's what the gist of the program is. So a lot of places here across or in the state of Kansas, they have those fishing holes, and we create those partnerships to allow people to fish them. We have our walk-in fishing access program. I'm doing a little promotion. I'm trying to put Kansas on the map, man. Just for those people that that don't know, because that's what I use. I mean, I tell you guys, like around this time, we've been kind of cool. So I've been fishing those smaller water bodies, kind of off the beaten path. Our WEFAW, which stands for walk-in fishing access. We have a walk-in hunting access called WEHAW. We just recently rebranded our WEFAW program. It used to be formerly called the fish program. I know it's kind of like I'm going to a fish property to go fishing. So we had to change that. We actually had a really cool contest in terms of the WEFAW program, where we solicited basically like submissions for a new logo in the state of Kansas, and a submission here in the state actually won. We got to give him a prize, and then he signed over the rights to the logo. So the logo for the WEFAW program, we have them on some hats. I was actually going to get you guys hooked up and show you guys what the logo looks like. But we offer a variety of different opportunities across the state, and I take advantage of those. There's an atlas online on our website. You just go to Google and type in KDWP Fishing Atlas, and it's an interactive atlas that you can open up on your phone and find all these locations, these river access points, these walk-in fishing ponds, these community fisheries lakes, the reservoirs, the state fishing lakes. And when you look at it broad scale, there's just water you can hit, in every which direction. You can go 20 miles and hit one lake, and go, 30 miles the other way and hit another lake. It changes a little bit in western Kansas, because there's just a little bit more droughty over there, and the water's, harder to find. But like in eastern Kansas, there's just a lot of places to fish. And that's kind of what I'm doing this year. I know I'm just rambling here, but yeah, I did a lot of creek fishing just early on this spring. Windy, as I mentioned, and so a lot of like our big reservoirs, they have all those fisheries: the walleye, the blue cats, the white bass, the crappie, the largemouth. And we have wildlife areas like upstream of the river creek that feeds into our large impoundments that you can, and there's access points. There's literally boat ramps where people can launch their boats and fish up the creek. You can fish for whites, you can fish for bass, you can fish for crappie. But yeah, I'm trying it all, man. I'm excited right now. The bass are kind of slow, so been doing a little bass fishing. I'm really looking forward to getting my fly rod out here to go bluegill and red ear fishing. I love bluegill and red ear. It's just I think that's my favorite fish to eat, honestly.
Okay.
But yeah, gonna get on that bluegill red ear bite, and then here pretty soon we have a new guy that started working at our office, and he loves to fish too, and he's got the live scope set up and everything. But we're trying to get like a wiper, a hybrid bass trip planned out to go to one of the lakes up north of our office. So I'm all over the place. I'm learning. I want to try different fishing. I've been a bass angler for like the last 4 or 5 years, and I kind of want to increase the repertoire, and we just offer different opportunities throughout the timeline. You got those early bass in March, you got Walleye too in March. In our big reservoirs, you got the white bass, hybrid bass, stripers. You got your walleye bite. You got the fall bite. You just got all sorts of bites going on, man. You can really pick what you really want to do. We're pretty blessed.
For sure. And then this winter, you got to come up to Iowa. Come ice fishing with us. We'll take you out because I do remember in the last podcast with you, or when we were talking when you were up here, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go ice fishing this first time, but you got to come up and ice fish with us this winter. It'll be fun. We'll I think there's some locations that we can take you to that's somewhat close to you, I guess you can say, if once that ice is over, and we'll get you on some decent fish for sure.
Sounds good, man. When we went up to Leech, I was the only one. We caught I want to say 5 or 6 burbot. That was the target species.
Nice. Okay.
Through the ice, dude. And I was the only one who didn't catch one, and it haunts me. It haunts me because that means I'm not just that terrible. So you had to rattle. What do they call those? Rattle reels? Hooked on the ice shack. And there's a burbot that swims in the ice camera, and I see it down there, dude. I'm 1v1 with this burbot. I have the reel in my hand, and it's doing that almost turning, trying to get the bait in its mouth. And I thought it had it, and I yanked it up, and it was gone, and that was my chance. So yeah, man. I'll definitely take you up on that as long as I can catch something, man. I'm just ice fishing is just
we have some spots that you can catch multiple species, so that's kind of cool. So we'll definitely get in touch with you as it gets a bit colder, but we'll worry about that in the winter. But we'll definitely reach out to you on that, and but definitely you'll have a good time for sure.
Yeah, no burbot in Iowa, but we might be able to probably knock 5 species off for you at this one spot
for sure.
Yeah, white bass, wipers.
I got 7
catfish.
species. I got 7 species
7?
this winter, dude. At that one
in one outing,
in one outing,
or
7
what?
species. Shit was
That's
crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
Off a little tungsten jig, probably.
No, it was a spoon and just either I was using a spoon and a waxworm or a spoon and a minnow. That's it.
I'm ignorant, man. I don't know. I when I went up there, I was like, man, I'm gonna go spend $50-$60 on lures. I bought spoons, I bought jig and wraps, I bought tungsten jigs, and
it works. I mean, they work. You just gotta kind of figure it out. Sometimes, sometimes they don't want the big stuff. Sometimes they want you to downsize. Yeah, you got to get. You will make a weekend trip. You come hang out with us, kick it with Fishing Kit, myself. We'll have a good time. We'll even do a podcast. It'll be fun, dude. We'll do another episode. It'll be fun.
Yeah, man. Sounds good.
For sure.
I want to get you on a catfish in the kayak in your neck of the woods.
Ooh, that'd be dope.
Man, that would be a lot of fun. So to describe myself, I want to learn new things too. In terms of fishing, man, catfish has got to be, I don't know. I'm not trying to downplay the catfish here, but I don't know. It's just sitting there and waiting, kind of
It depends. It depends.
I like the chase thing. I guess it's more I'm not much of a hunter, so I don't really hunt, deer or anything. So I guess the thrill of the hunt when you fish, I guess that's kind of my evaluating what's going on. I guess you do that with channel cats too.
Yeah, you're hunting them, man. You're hunting the catfish.
Yeah. No, I'm open to whatever, man. You're gonna throw the opportunity for me to go catch catfish off a kayak. Am I gonna be that guy that says no? No.
For sure, man.
I get it though. I get it because I've been doing a lot of catfishing this year, and yesterday was the first time I really went out with the jig, and just that thump and setting the hook. There's something about it, and it was something I really missed because my plan actually was I was gonna go out there catch 2 white bass, use them for bait. It's like, man, catching a fish on a jig is pretty fun, and I just stayed fishing for white bass and crappies the whole time.
Yeah,
I went to the wrong lake yesterday, and I caught And then this guy, yeah, and then this guy texts me the picture. I could have told you that. Thanks,
Well,
man.
I told him to meet me where I was going. He's like, "Oh, it's too far." Then he goes out to a lake
No, it
that's even
wasn't too.
farther
It
away.
wasn't too far. I was just thinking like, all right, maybe you go there, I go over here, and then we had another buddy went to another spot. So we kind of we hit 3 spots to see who's doing well. So then tomorrow or the next day we can go there. But then go figure, that spot that he went to probably got blown up today. So it is what it is.
Hey, not because of me though. I didn't post nothing.
It's all good, man. I was just like, oh shit, I was gonna go there today. I was like, I guarantee it's gonna be at least it's gonna be masses there now. But oh well.
Oh man. Yeah, that's tough. Do you get like a lot? Are you talking like you put a video up and then people saw where?
So the thing is, I learned from him too about this is that when we do our videos, we do the best we can to number one, we post it, obviously post production, and we wait like my videos were like at least 2 to 3 weeks out when I posted it. 2 weeks out usually, but we can have 2 weeks out. And then on top of that, we don't name the lakes or the spot we go to as best we can. I mean, but if obviously where we're at. In regards to like pictures and stuff for social media, I typically, if you look at mine, it's just like you just see me and the fish. You don't see shit anything else. It's like, yeah, this is a selfie. Is it? You really don't know where I'm at. And same thing, I think with Kit too. He actually doesn't even post pictures until like 2-3 weeks. I'm like, fool, that shit was like 4 weeks ago. Like this guy just posted, but I'm glad he does that because. In case somebody knows a spot, like he doesn't want to blow up the spot, not just for himself, but for all of us or, regular anglers that went to go find that spot. So, I appreciate that. And, but others who are super excited, I can't hate it on them either. People who go and fish and they're super excited. They caught a fish. They take pictures and then people find out about it. They want to post, they want to share their catch and success. So I can't hate on that either. So I'm just like, but there's a lot of people who, trust me, they're just like, I know they don't like it and they hate it, but we're in a world that social media is there, and you want to share your experiences so people can see what you've done and stuff like that. So I understand both worlds in a way, but yeah, I like I said, I think that he does really well, especially when he catches really good and stuff. I know Kit does really well in regards to not blowing up a spot.
Yeah, I try to not give away too much in the videos.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to show you. I'm here to show you my catch, not show you where I'm fishing.
For sure.
Right.
And
are you not entertained?
Yeah, exactly right. But I think it's at least the videos that we do is more of a just so you guys enjoy. This is what we experience. That's what we're trying to show. Not to give you a fishing report. Right. River certified. Spencer said that. I do this to show you guys what I experience and all that stuff, and help teach you guys a little bit. But I'm not here for a fishing report to give you a fishing report. So.
Right. The thrill of the hunt, man. It exists. That's
there you go.
Go chase them.
Go chase them and don't get mad. It's just fishing, guys. At the end of the day, we're just fishing, man. Have fun with it. It's supposed to be relaxing. I'm telling you, man, Ernesto, our social media was kind of going crazy the past couple of weeks here, in regards to harvesting, in regards to blowing up spots. It's just, but I'm pretty sure every state, everybody has that issue. It's just like, at the end of the day, guys, it's just fishing, man. Don't take anything personal. Have fun with it. If your spot, if somebody's at that spot, go down 100 feet. You're fine. Mm-hmm. Just fishing, man.
There's a lot of fish out there. A lot.
Exactly. And a lot of spots. You don't have to go to that. Fish don't stay at the same spot all the time. So I get it, man. Man, it's been fun, dude. I wish we could have you a little bit more. I don't want to keep you too late, but hey, Kit, you got anything else for Ernesto, man, before you let him go?
Yeah. If our audience wants to reach out to you with any burning questions, where can they do that?
You can find me on. I can hand out my email and stuff, but probably the easiest way, I guess, if like you have any questions regarding Kansas or stuff or anything, you can reach me on Twitter. My Twitter's fishflores3. If you have any questions regarding, like, obviously we just got done talking about, not giving away the fishing spots and stuff, but we are in the job of like, providing our product for our constituents. So yeah, any questions, man, just hit me up on Twitter and we can move forward from there.
For sure, for sure. We'll put the link and the contact information on your Twitter and everything on down there. So, this has been fun, man. I really enjoy it. We're gonna go down there. Hopefully, I don't know how your schedule looks. We'll talk. We can talk offline, but I don't know how your schedule looks in about a month from now. But thank you so much, and I'm pretty sure the Kansas listeners, they're gonna appreciate this. We might make this a thing. We might make it because we have other listeners from other states. Maybe we can grab somebody from over there to give them a little bit of a home field love. So I'm pretty sure our Kansas listeners are gonna love this. They're gonna love all the information. Thank you so much for just dropping in and giving us the 411 on the stripe fish, fish with stripes, the blue cats, everything. Totally appreciate that. And then you got to come up and ice fish with us for sure this year, man.
Oh, I'll take you guys up, man. It's a blast. I was looking forward to this podcast. You're a good group of guys who just basically sit around a computer and talk. It feels like I'm hanging out with you guys, really, even though we're a few states away, like legitimately. So I was really looking forward to this. It's a good time. You guys doing good.
Awesome. And then we'll see the convention right next year. Is it good? It's happening there in Kansas, correct?
Yeah, so the Midwest Fish and Wildlife Conference, which is where we did the previous podcast, was in Iowa this year. It's going to be in Kansas at Overland Park, Kansas. We're kind of in the process of, and I was actually, off the air we can talk about this, but
sure.
If you guys want to continue to do like a Kansas podcast, where we get similar to what Jeff did for you guys, we could get a swath of fishery professionals. I know it's kind of a jaunt for you guys, but if you guys are coming down, we could set something up similar, or if you guys just want to partake and take it in, that's cool too.
For sure.
But yeah, the conference, the Midwest Fish and Wildlife, will be in Kansas. Hopefully we see you guys there.
For sure. Can't wait to talk. We'll talk to you about that for sure. And other than that, man, I can't wait to get down to Kansas. This is one of the trips that we love. We love because obviously I get to see my in-laws, my friends and stuff from Colorado. But on top of that, we get to do some good fishing in Kansas. And people hasn't been there to Google it, look it up, guys. Forums. Kansas has got some amazing fisheries, and that goes to tell that you guys are doing an amazing job. So, other than that, man, Ernesto, thank you so much, and we will see you next time, brother. Have a good one, man.
All right, you guys too.
All right, everybody. See ya.